Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and consider other important aspects of working for yourself, running your small business, being self-employed. So today we're going to talk about tax inspections, investigations. Before I do, if I could please ask you to take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll easily be able to refer back to this information if you should need to, as well as finding other information that we have available on a whole wide range of topics, all with the aim of supporting you in your self-employment. So on then to tax inspections, investigations. So the first thing that people say when they have been notified that their affairs are being looked into in any way is why have I been selected? Have I done something wrong? So the first and foremost thing to say in regard to any tax inspection or investigation is that if your affairs are all in order, then you simply don't have anything to worry about. If your affairs aren't in order and you know that they're not in order, then the best thing to do is to be open and honest about any gaps in your systems, or anything that you're aware of that may impact the accuracy of any of your tax affairs. So the same applies to whatever type of tax that we're looking at, whether it's VAT, whether it's PAYE, whether it's your income tax, corporation tax, any type of tax can of course be investigated. And now sometimes this will be a random selection where HMRC have selected you because you work in a particular industry or a particular income level that they are focused on. It could be something unusual in one of your submissions that means that they just want to check that everything is in order. A common inspection would be if you generally have a VAT liability to pay when you submit your return, and all of a sudden you have a large rebate due. Say, for example, you bought a large asset and that was the reason for that, then simply sending a copy of the invoice to verify that would be sufficient to resolve that type of inspection. It could be that HMRC want to look into things a little bit more detailed, and they may ask you to organise a meeting, or they may ask for you to send them information. And the best thing that I can say to you in this scenario is to make sure that you respond promptly, and that you provide information or dates or accommodate what is asked for, as long as that is reasonable, which generally it would be. So the thing that I would say is, whilst you are generally going along in your self-employment, you want to make sure that everything is in order, and you want to be challenging yourself on a regular basis to say, well, if when I submit my next VAT return or my next self-assessment tax return, I am flagged up and I have my affairs looked into, is there anything that is incorrect? Well, if you have made sure that you are claiming for expenses or claiming VAT in a correct manner, that you have the correct documentation and that it's readily available, then really you just don't have anything to worry about, because all you will need to do is to present that information to the HMRC officer to satisfy them that your affairs are in order. Now, just some tips when we're looking at this that won't necessarily go against you, but will help build the perception of your business with the officer who is dealing with your inspection. So let's say, for example, that you have a VAT inspection, an in-person inspection, and as you will know, that they would initially be looking back over the period of 4 years. So the first thing in a VAT inspection is the period that they start with. They will want to know, okay, well, these are the figures that you submitted in your VAT return. You told us this is how much sales VAT you had to pay and how much purchase VAT you deducted from them. Can you show me how you made those figures? Because of course they only get the actual return. So of course, when you calculated your VAT, and these days you will be doing that using Making Tax Digital software, no doubt. So all that information is available at a touch of a button. But did you print it off or did you save it in a folder? Particularly if you don't have access to that software anymore. If you do, then simply you could just pop back in and regenerate those reports. But if you say, for example, oh no, I did that and I've changed my software and I didn't keep any record of it, well, then this would be fair for HMRC to not be satisfied with this, because it's no good you saying to them, well, I did, that is how much sales VAT, because now they will need to go back to the documentation, and effectively the bookkeeping would need to be redone to be able to actually show how you made those figures up in the first place. So let's say, for example, you've got all your breakdowns and a large invoice, a large purchase invoice is sort of flagged up. So the officer asked to see that invoice. Now, let's say, for example, that you don't do any filing and you just pile your paperwork and all up in with good intentions of filing that never happen, and so it's almost a needle in a haystack for you to find that invoice. So again, as long as you do find that invoice, it's not especially going to be to your detriment in the inspection. But again, this is going to give the perception of a disorganized business. And what you really want to be presenting is the fact that you are a well-organized business. You know your responsibilities. You know what things you're eligible to claim. You only claim the things that you should be, that are wholly and exclusively for your business. And this is the impression that you want to be building up. So while some of these other things won't actually impact that inspection, but by building up a perception to the officer of somebody that's disorganized, that doesn't strive to do things correctly, then you can see how this could actually subconsciously impact on your inspection. So the most important thing is, as you go along, make sure that everything is in order, make sure that you are doing the things that you need to be doing with your business, that you're registered for the right taxes, that you're submitting the right returns in a timely manner, that you're paying your liabilities. And if you can't pay your liabilities, you're discussing this with HMRC. And then you know that everything's in place. You know that everything's accurate. You know that you could quickly and easily present any evidence for claims, for expense claims, for your self-assessment tax return, for example, for business expenditure on your corporation tax return, or for VAT claims on purchase VAT that you've paid. So the important thing is, and you will notice that I do talk about this sort of theme quite regularly, is looking actually to why you are doing that. Look at, when you are running your business and you have 1,000,001 better things to do than the big pile of filing, and to actually sort of think, well, if I did need to find this information, can I do it? and by sort of looking at what, you know, why may I need to do this, that should help you to motivate you to actually keep things up to date as you go along. And then if you do hear that your affairs have been looked into in any way, then you know you can be confident that everything is in order. If the officer does find a mistake that you've made, then try not to be defensive about it. If you feel that they're incorrect, explain to them your reasoning. If you think, for example, something should have been allowed and they're saying to you that that's not allowed, explain your reason. But if it's something you've made a mistake, just you know, sort of acknowledge that and accept that. If mistakes are made, then potentially there could be a penalty applied, but this will the level of this penalty will be determined by how helpful you have been, whether it's a deliberate mistake. So if you made a careless mistake whilst you were completing your VAT return, for example, and the officer asks for more information, and then you realize what's happened, and you provide all the information that they need to be able to see what's happened and what's gone wrong, that will weigh in your favor when it comes to penalties. If you deliberately try to claim for something that you know you shouldn't have, and you try to conceal that from the officer, then conversely that will give you the maximum penalty, which could be up to 100% of the liability that you haven't paid. And of course you have to pay any liability. And this is another reason, aside from faring well in an inspection, why you want to keep on top of everything, because you want to know that each year that you've paid all your taxes, that you've paid the correct amount, that you haven't tried to claim things that you shouldn't have done. So therefore, to the best of your knowledge, if you had an inspection, there would be no more liability to pay, because the last thing that you want is an inspection where HMRC are looking back for, say, 4 years. Of course, they can go further if they find things that they're not happy, and they can go considerably further if there's any hint of fraud or wrongdoing. So the last thing that you want to do is to be thinking you've paid your taxes and everything's up to date, and then all of a sudden an inspection reveals that you have lots of unpaid liability because you've been claiming things that you shouldn't have been claiming. But the biggest message for you is that if you do hear that your tax affairs, any of the taxes, are to be looked at, please don't panic. It's, you know, just all you need to do is to be presenting, answering the questions that you're asked, to help the HMRC officer to have a full understanding of your operations and your whichever tax it is that they're looking at, to satisfy them that you have been doing everything correctly and everything is in order. So I hope that this helps, and I hope that this reassures you that an inspection or an investigation really isn't anything to be alarmed about, as long as you're doing everything as you should be. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.